All right, time to install the drivetrain. And we're gonna need a chain tool. This is my little trick to holding the chain together when you need 3 hands. Maybe you need some end snippers for the tie wraps or the cable ties, cable cutters to cut the cable housing and the shifter housing to the correct length, a variety of hex keys to adjust all kinds of things and to put our shifter on the bars. We have our SRAM GX shifter, 12 speed, and we have our derailleur, 12 speed derailleur, and we have some cable housing here along with our 12 speed chain and a couple of end caps for the cable housing and some crimps for the shifter cable. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is actually position our shifter on the bars so I can get an idea about how long of the cable housing I need to run through the internal runs. There's one here on the down tube, and then there's one on the chain stay as well. So we'll have internal routing in 2 different places here. So that's cool. First time I've actually done internal routing, so it should be fun from what I've heard. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to remove the grip, open up the brake here. This is the great thing about these Shimano brakes. You don't have to take them off the bar, although I could just easily slide this off. Sometimes you don't have enough cable room without loosening the bars up. So I just kind of unclamp that, the other bar for now, so as not to drive too much air in the brake system. And we'll fit our shifter on. And so since I'm using a non-matchmaker setup, because I have Shimano brakes and I have SRAM shifters, I can't set up matchmakers, so I've got to install this clamp. Matchmaker is Shimano's equivalent to iSpec, which allows you to install a selector in combination with the clamp that is on the brakes, and that allows you to save some space, weight on the actual bar. Alright, and then we'll put on our grip. Get an idea about the positioning. And get it a little tight yet. We can start to feed. This is the internal routing tube. Start to feed our cable. It's going to be interesting to see how this comes out. If we put any guides in there. Alright, so I removed the grommets and then I kind of fished the cable down and kind of caught it with this pick out the bottom hole here. So that's one stretch, and so now I'll just reinstall the grommet. Alright, and there's our grommet for. Alright, so I believe now we can just, there's a grommet hole here. Let's see how successful we are with routing this through. If it'll come out it should come out here if we're successful. We may have to run it the other way, but there we go. Not too bad. And so we've got plenty cable out back here, plenty of cable out the front. And so now we will run our shifter cable through and trim our housing down. All we have to do is engage that notch, derailleur, tighten her up, and there we go. We adjust the low gear limit screw and the high gear limit screw. So I've locked the derailleur out. There's 2 screws here. One set the limit so that the chain doesn't get, as you're shifting gears, the chain doesn't get caught between the frame and the smallest cog, which is the high gear. In the same way, going to low gear, you don't want the chain to get caught between the spokes, and so these limit screws keep the derailleur, it keeps the derailleur within bounds so that it doesn't do that. And so this inside screw here will align, what you want to do is align this jockey wheel with the smallest cassette cog, and we just did that. And now I'm doing the larger, so you just take your hand and you push it over, and if it goes too far there, so it goes past the cassette, so we want to line it up. So I'm just going to screw this limit screw in a little bit more until we can only push it back. Turn there maybe. Yeah, I think that's about right. And then we'll set the V-screw limit later, which sets the distance between the jockey wheel and the cassette. And it's super important to set it correctly on a 12 speed, according to all of the instructions I've read. So that, we now have our derailleur hung. All right, now we'll make a cut on our sheathing and put a ferrule or end cap onto it. I'm just gonna eyeball it for now. And make sure our cable housing is opened here. Ferrule. Let's try one that fits a little bit better. Alright, that one fits good. And what I'm going to do is turn the adjuster screw all the way in and then back it back out a few times. So that's 1, 2. Alright, let's trim our cable housing at the rear. Cut. And we'll use our little hits. Make sure it's spread up in there. Put our ferrule on. Alright, there we go. Now that we have the cable in the hole, alright, so now we will feed our shifter cable through the housing, and it should, we'll get this all the way in and insert our ferrule into, we got it. Alright, then we will route our cable through using our pinch bolt. Alright, we run our cable through and we just want to pull it ever so tighten. That's it. We'll cut our cable and put a crimp. There we go. Okay, let's size the chain. In order to size the chain on a full suspension bike, we need to remove the shock. I held them up and make sure when the shock drops down. Our shock removed, we can proceed to compress our linkage, and that should be our maximum chain distance. There we go. So we're opening up our chain and quick link here. So let's feed our chain around down to our chain ring. Make sure we're lined up. And what we want to do, so that's our reference, and then we'll move 1, 2 back from there. All right, so we have our reference point, and then we're going to go up 1, 2, and that's going to be the length of our chain. So we take our chain and the piece you don't need along with the rivet, and we add our quick link. All right, we've got our new chain sized. All right, so I'm just going to feed the chain through. Actually locked out the rear derailleur. That's a nice function of the SRAM. And run it on top of the jockey wheel through the cage my bottom jockey wheel, and so now it's just easy work of connecting the chain with our quick link. And our SRAM quick link is kind of shaped, has a curve in it, and has the curve should point down toward the chainstay, and there's an arrow that should point toward the derailleur. If you're installing on the top, obviously all of that will be backwards. So we'll just make the connection here, snap one in, quick link in the other, and just a quick push together of the chain. And you probably won't be able to click the quick link all together with just the pressure of your hand. So the best way to do this is to remove the bike from the stand, put it on the ground, hold your rear brake, and just put some quick pedal pressure in the forward direction, and that will snap the quick link together. You can see right now it's at this kind of intermediate stage of being together. Let's see if we can get a close up here. Let's unlock our derailleur. And I'm just going to hit the rear brake and give it a good amount of pressure, and then we'll just double check it. Back on the stand. You could do this the first ride too. I just make sure it's seated before I actually go on the first ride. You never know what's going to happen. So, and you can see here's our quick link now. So our quick link is here, and it's fully engaged. So yeah, so that's it for the chain install, and I'll turn around and show you the B adjustment. All right, we're gonna adjust our V-limit screw. So what we want to do is change over to the largest cog on our cassette. So on the 52 cog on the cassette. And then we're going to take our handy dandy tool here. And so it just fits on the jockey wheel as such. So just kind of ever so tightly up against the jockey wheel there. And then you just kind of rotate it in, and the teeth of the sprocket should line up with the engraved part of the tool here. So as we put this, line this with the jockey wheel, and then we just want to rotate it, and we can see these little teeth markings here. And in my case, the B gap is set almost perfectly already. We don't have to do any B adjustment, so it came out of the box fairly good for me. So that's it for B adjustments. All right, we are going to tighten our shock bolts down now to 140 inch-pounds. There we go. And we have a drivetrain. Stay tuned for the next episode.